Berlin Wolfsschanze, Wolf's Lair, East Prussia, December 7, 1941, 9:47 p.m. The room smells of damp concrete and burning wood. A fire crackles in the stone hearth, throwing shadows across maps that cover an entire wall. Europe, colored in Reich black and enemy red. Adolf Hitler stands before those maps, one hand behind his back, the other tracing the Eastern Front where 3 million men are freezing in the Russian winter. He doesn't hear the knock at first. His mind is 1,200 miles east, where Army Group Center has stalled 19 miles from Moscow, where temperatures have dropped to -40, where soldiers are burning furniture to stay alive because winter uniforms haven't arrived, where the blitzkrieg that conquered France in 6 weeks has ground to a frozen halt. The knock comes again, sharper, urgent. Herein come ins. Otto Dietrich enters. Reich Press Chief, normally composed, now visibly agitated. He carries a decoded telegram, the paper trembling slightly in his hand. Behind him, Wilhelm Keitel, Chief of the Wehrmacht High Command, follows with the careful steps of a man approaching a minefield. Hitler turns, his eyes, pale blue and unnaturally bright, fix on Dietrich. What? Mein Führer, we've received confirmation from our embassy in Washington. The Japanese have attacked the American Pacific Fleet at Pearl Harbor. Multiple ships sunk. Thousands of casualties. The attack began approximately 7 hours ago. For 3 seconds, Hitler is completely still. Not the theatrical stillness he uses in speeches, but genuine paralysis. The kind that happens when the brain receives information it cannot immediately process. Then he erupts. Not in rage, in laughter. It starts as a chuckle, low in his throat. Then it builds, spilling out in waves that seem to surprise even him. He slaps his thigh, rocks back on his heels, laughs until tears form at the corners of his eyes. Dietrich and Keitel exchange glances. This is not the reaction they expected. Finally, Hitler gasps between laughs. Finally, those idiots in Tokyo actually did something right. If you've never heard what happened in the next 4 days, you're not alone. This is the decision that doomed the Third Reich, made by a man who thought he was guaranteeing victory. Hit subscribe because you're about to witness the biggest strategic blunder of World War II, told minute by minute, as Hitler talked himself into declaring war on the one nation that could, and would, destroy him. The laughter subsides. Hitler waves them toward the map table, a massive oak surface covered with troop positions, supply lines, casualty reports. The detritus of a war that has already grown beyond his ability to control it, though he doesn't know this yet. Sit, tell me everything. Dietrich reads from the telegram. The attack was launched at dawn, Hawaiian time. 6 aircraft carriers, 353 planes, 8 American battleships in Pearl Harbor, 5 sunk or sinking, 3 damaged, over 2,400 Americans dead. The Pacific Fleet, the only force capable of challenging Japanese expansion in Asia, crippled in a single morning. Hitler listens, his eyes distant, calculating. Around them, the Wolf's Lair, his military headquarters in the forests of East Prussia, continues its nightly routine. Guard changes, radio communications, the muted conversations of officers planning tomorrow's offensives. No one else knows yet. The world is about to shift on its axis, but only 3 men in this room feel the tremor. Roosevelt will have to declare war now, Keitel says carefully. The American public will demand it. On Japan, yes. Hitler nods, already thinking 3 moves ahead. But not on us. Roosevelt has been trying to bring America into the European war for 2 years. Churchill has been begging him. And what has the American Congress said? No, no foreign wars. Let Europe burn, we'll sell weapons to both sides. But now Roosevelt has his war, but it's in the wrong ocean. Hitler's smile is sharp, predatory. He'll be busy with Japan, the U-boats in the Atlantic, the war in Europe that becomes a sideshow. Don't you see? This is perfect. Dietrich clears his throat. Mein Führer, there is a matter of the tripartite pact. We signed a mutual defense agreement with Japan and Italy. If one signatory is attacked, the others are obligated to. I know what we signed. Hitler's voice goes cold. But the pact specifies mutual defense. Japan wasn't attacked. Japan attacked. We have no obligation. The room falls silent. This is the moment, the pivot point. Hitler could do nothing. Could let Japan and America fight their war while Germany focuses on Russia, on the Eastern Front that is bleeding his armies white. But doing nothing has never been Hitler's strength. Midnight, Hitler's private study. He can't sleep. This happens more often now, the insomnia that comes with amphetamine injections and the weight of commanding millions. He sits at his desk, a small lamp throwing yellow light across his papers. On the wall, a portrait of Frederick the Great, the Prussian king who fought all of Europe and won. Hitler talks to himself. This is another habit that has grown worse. His adjutants pretend not to hear him through the door. America, always America. Roosevelt and his Jews trying to drag the United States into Europe's war. Well, let them come. Let them try. He pulls out a file. Intelligence reports on American military capacity. The numbers should terrify him, but he reads them through a lens of contempt hardened by ideology and success. American Army, 1.6 million men, poorly trained, no combat experience. American tank production, inferior designs. The M3 Grant is a joke compared to the Panzer IV. American Air Force, bombers, yes, but can they cross the Atlantic? Can they penetrate German airspace? American Navy, powerful but now half-sunk at Pearl Harbor, and navies don't win land wars. What the reports don't say, what Hitler's ideology won't let him see, is that these numbers are snapshots of potential, not limitations. America in December 1941 is a sleeping giant. Its factories aren't producing tanks yet, but they're producing 4 million cars a year. That production capacity, converted to war, could bury Germany in steel. But Hitler doesn't see potential. He sees a mongrel nation of jazz music and chewing gum, led by a cripple in a wheelchair, unable to make hard decisions. He sees a democracy, which he considers inherently weak. He sees a nation that needed 4 years to enter the last war, that fought for 18 months and went home claiming victory. They have no stomach for real war, he mutters. No ideology, no purity of purpose, just capitalism and Jewish interests. We will crush them. December 8th, 10:00 a.m., military briefing. The senior command gathers. Field Marshal Wilhelm Keitel, General Alfred Jodl, Reichsmarschall Hermann Göring, commander of the Luftwaffe, Admiral Erich Rieder, commander of the Kriegsmarine, Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop. They know why they're here. The question of America hangs in the room like smoke. Rieder speaks first. Mein Führer, if you're considering a declaration of war against the United States, I must present the naval perspective. Present it. Our U-boat fleet currently operates under strict rules of engagement regarding American vessels. We cannot attack American ships even when they're clearly supplying Britain. This restriction has cost us significantly. If we declare war, those restrictions end. We can attack American convoys freely. The Atlantic becomes a free-fire zone. Hitler leans forward. This appeals to him. The U-boat war has been frustrating. American ships transporting weapons to Britain under the Lend-Lease program and German submarines forced to let them pass. Roosevelt's undeclared war, supplying Hitler's enemies while claiming neutrality. How many American ships can you sink? Hundreds, Mein Führer. We have 91 operational U-boats. If unleashed without restriction, we can strangle the Atlantic supply lines. Britain depends on American supplies. Cut that lifeline and Britain starves. Göring, Hitler turns to his portly air commander. Göring, dressed in a powder blue uniform heavy with medals, waves dismissively. The Luftwaffe has nothing to fear from American aircraft. Their designs are years behind ours. Our fighters are superior. Our pilots have combat experience. If American bombers attempt to reach Germany, we will swat them from the sky. Only Jodl, the chief of operations, looks uncomfortable. Mein Führer, there is the question of American industrial capacity. Industry means nothing without will. Hitler cuts him off. Look at France. Superior tanks, good army, no will to fight. We crushed them in 6 weeks. America is even weaker, soft, decadent, divided. They have Negroes and Jews in their ranks. What kind of army is that? The racism isn't casual. It's structural, woven into every calculation. Hitler cannot conceive of a racially integrated army as a strength. He sees only impurity, weakness, inferiority. This blindness will cost him everything. Ribbentrop, the foreign minister, leans in. There is also the matter of Japan. If we declare war alongside them, it demonstrates Axis solidarity. It keeps Tokyo from seeking a separate peace with America. It ensures they continue tying down American forces in the Pacific. And if we don't declare war, someone asks. Hitler's voice goes hard. If we don't, we look weak. We look like we're hiding behind the tripartite pact's fine print. We look like we're afraid of America. He stands, pacing now. I am not afraid of America. Germany is not afraid of America, and the world will know it. The pattern is emerging. Not a rational strategic calculation, but an emotional decision justified with selective facts. Hitler is angry at Roosevelt, angry at American Lend-Lease, angry at being forced to restrict U-boat operations, angry at the implication that Germany should fear anyone. And like so many of history's catastrophic decisions, it's being made in a bubble. No one in the room challenges him. Cadel nods agreement. Goering preens. Ribbentrop takes notes for the propaganda statement. Only Jodl sees the trap closing, and he stays silent. December 9th, evening, Hitler's private dinner. He eats alone mostly, surrounded by adjutants who pretend not to exist. Vegetarian food prepared to exact specifications. The conversation, when it happens, consists of monologues. Hitler talks, others listen. Tonight, he talks about destiny. Frederick the Great faced impossible odds. All of Europe allied against him, and he won because he understood that will Trump's numbers. Napoleon conquered Europe with armies smaller than his enemies, because French soldiers believed in something greater than themselves. An adjutant refills his tea. No one responds. Response isn't required. The Germanic race is destined to rule. Not because we are more numerous, we are not. Not because we are richer, we are not. But because we are pure, because we have ideology where others have only materialism. This is what America doesn't understand. You cannot defeat an idea with factory production. But you can. History will prove this conclusively. America's factory production will bury the Third Reich in tanks, planes, ships, and bullets. But Hitler, trapped in his ideology, cannot see this. He has built a worldview where material reality bends to racial destiny, where will and purity overcome logistics and mathematics. It's a beautiful theory. It's also completely wrong. December 10th, 2:30 p.m., the decision is made. Hitler summons Ribbentrop. Draft a declaration of war against the United States. We'll present it to the Reichstag tomorrow. Mein Führer, are you certain, once this step is taken? I'm certain. Germany has never feared her enemies. We will not start now. Ribbentrop bows and leaves. In his wake, the machinery of state begins to turn. Drafts are written, legal justifications assembled. The Reichstag, a rubber-stamp parliament, prepares to convene. That evening, Hitler calls his inner circle. Joseph Goebbels, Minister of Propaganda, Heinrich Himmler, head of the SS, Martin Bormann, Private Secretary, the true believers. Gentlemen, tomorrow, we declare war on America. Goebbels, always the quickest, sees the propaganda angle immediately. The mongrel nation, the Jewish-controlled democracy, Germany standing firm against the entire world. This will unify the people. Exactly. Hitler's eyes gleam. Let Roosevelt and Churchill have their Atlantic Charter, their pretty words about freedom. We have something stronger. We have the truth of blood and soil. We have destiny. Himmler nods. The SS is ready, Mein Führer, whatever sacrifices are necessary. But no one asks the essential question, can we win this war? Because in Hitler's Germany, doubt is treason, and the men surrounding Hitler have selected themselves for loyalty, not wisdom. The skeptics have been purged, sidelined, silenced. What remains is an echo chamber where every terrible idea bounces back as validation. December 11, 1941, 3:00 p.m., Kroll Opera House, Berlin. The Reichstag assembles in the ornate building that has served as parliament since the original Reichstag building burned in 1933. Deputies fill the seats, a sea of brown and black uniforms. At the front, a massive swastika hangs behind the speaker's podium. Hitler enters to thunderous applause. He wears a simple brown uniform, no excessive medals, the image of a leader of the people, though he's anything but. He speaks for 90 minutes. The speech is vintage Hitler. Grievances listed and amplified, enemies named and condemned, destiny invoked like a holy mandate. Since the beginning of the war, the American President Roosevelt has been waging undeclared war against Germany. He has supplied our enemies with weapons. He has ordered American ships to attack German submarines. He has violated every principle of neutrality. And now, his allies in Japan have been attacked, and we stand with our Axis partners. The logic is intentionally twisted. Japan attacked America, not the other way around, but facts are malleable in Hitler's rhetoric. I have therefore ordered the German High Command to consider ourselves in a state of war with the United States of America, effective immediately. Applause erupts, not because the deputies want war with America, many are privately terrified, but because dissent is impossible. This is a dictatorship. You applaud or you disappear. Hitler continues. Let Roosevelt send his armies. Let him try to cross the Atlantic. We have fought all of Europe and won. We will fight America and win, because we fight for something greater than money, greater than territory. We fight for the survival and supremacy of the Aryan race, and that cause cannot be defeated. More applause. The deputies stand, raising their arms in salute. Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil, Sieg Heil. Outside in the streets of Berlin, the news spreads. Some citizens feel pride, swept up in the propaganda. Others feel dread, the cold certainty that the war has just become unwinnable. But they keep that dread silent, hidden behind forced smiles and stiff-armed salutes. What Hitler said publicly was a performance, but what did he say privately in the days that followed? The truth is more revealing than the speech. December 12th, private conversation with Albert Speer, his chief architect and confidant. They'll never make it across the Atlantic, Hitler says, studying architectural plans for Germania, his fantasy redesign of Berlin. The U-boats will sink any invasion fleet, and even if they land where? France, we control the coastline. Norway, reinforced. They'd need 1 million men just to establish a beachhead, and America doesn't have that kind of army. Speer, one of the few in Hitler's circle with some intellectual honesty, ventures a question. What if they do build that army? American industry. Industry? Hitler slams his hand on the table. Everyone talks about American industry, but industry needs raw materials. Steel, rubber, oil, where do they get it? They'll be fighting Japan for Pacific resources. They'll be shipping everything across submarine-infested oceans. Their supply lines will be strangled before their factories matter. And if not? Hitler looks at him, and for just a moment, something flickers in his eyes. Not doubt, exactly, but perhaps the distant recognition that he's bet everything on being right. Then we win anyway, because we must, because Germany has no alternative. December 15th, Intelligence Report. The Abwehr, German military intelligence, delivers an assessment of American military potential. The report is detailed, sobering, and will be almost completely ignored. American industrial capacity exceeds German capacity by a factor of 4. If fully mobilized for war, the United States can produce 50,000 aircraft per year, 25,000 tanks, unlimited ammunition, and sufficient naval vessels to dominate both oceans. Current American military readiness is low, but training infrastructure exists to expand rapidly. Estimate 18-24 months to full mobilization. Conclusion: Germany cannot win a protracted war against combined American, British, and Soviet production. Recommend seeking negotiated peace before American forces fully deploy. The report reaches Hitler's desk. He reads it, scrawls a single word in the margin: defeatist. It's filed away and never mentioned again. What Hitler actually said about America, compiled from multiple sources. To his secretary, Krista Schroeder, the Americans are good at making movies and refrigerators, but tanks, planes, they're decades behind. By the time they figure out modern warfare, we'll have already won. To Goebbels, recorded in the propaganda minister's diary, Roosevelt is a Jew tool. His country is half Negro, half Jewish, completely mongrelized. Such a nation has no staying power. One hard punch and they'll crumble. To his generals during a military briefing, America has never fought a real war. They joined the last one at the end and claimed credit for victory. Let them come to Europe. They'll learn what war actually means. The pattern is consistent. Dismissal, contempt, racial ideology masquerading as strategic analysis. But here, that's what Hitler couldn't say, because his ideology wouldn't permit it. He didn't say that America's racial diversity was a strength, not weakness. That a nation built by immigrants from every corner of the world might have perspectives and problem-solving abilities his homogeneous Reich lacked. He didn't say that democracy, messy and slow as it is, produces better decisions than dictatorship. That a system where leaders can be questioned and challenged makes fewer catastrophic errors than one where a single voice dominates. He didn't say that America's industrial capacity, built on free markets, innovation, and competition, was fundamentally more dynamic than Germany's state-directed economy. He didn't say that declaring war on a neutral nation with 10 times your industrial capacity, while already fighting Britain and Russia, was strategic suicide. He couldn't say these things. His entire worldview, the Nazi ideology that defined him, made these truths invisible. He was trapped in a narrative where Aryan destiny trumped mathematics, where will overcame logistics, where Germany simply had to win because the alternative was ideologically impossible. January 1942, the first consequences. American factories begin conversion to war production. Ford, General Motors, Boeing, companies that made cars and refrigerators now make tanks and bombers. The production numbers start small but grow exponentially. By the end of 1942, 47,000 aircraft produced. By the end of 1943, 86,000 aircraft. By the end of 1944, 96,000 aircraft. Meanwhile, Germany's entire war production for 1944, 40,000 aircraft. The math is simple and brutal. June 1944, Normandy, D-Day. The invasion Hitler said was impossible happens. 156,000 Allied troops land on French beaches in a single day, supported by 11,000 aircraft and 7,000 naval vessels. American industrial capacity made manifest, turned into the largest amphibious invasion in human history. Hitler, now living in his bunker, ranting at maps and ghosts, issues orders to armies that no longer exist, demands counterattacks with tanks that were never built, blames traitors and Jews and everyone except himself. April 30th, 1945, the Führer Bunker, Berlin. Soviet forces are 500 meters away. The Reich that was supposed to last 1,000 years has survived 12. Hitler, deteriorating physically and mentally, dictates his final testament. In it, he blames everyone: the generals who failed him, the German people who proved unworthy, the Jews who conspired against him, the Western democracies who allied with Soviet communism. He does not mention that declaring war on America was a mistake, because in Hitler's mind, even at the end, it was. The ideology that led him to that declaration was the same ideology that prevented him from ever questioning it. He places a pistol to his temple and, declaring war on America is universally recognized as Hitler's worst strategic blunder. It turned a European conflict into a global war Germany could not win. It brought American industrial might fully into the European theater. It made the Allied victory inevitable instead of merely probable. But here's the deeper truth. Hitler was always going to declare war on America. Not because the Tripartite Pact required it, it didn't. Not because Germany would benefit, it wouldn't, but because his ideology demanded it. He couldn't tolerate an America that challenged his racial theories by existing as a successful, diverse democracy. He couldn't accept that a nation he considered inferior might be stronger. His entire worldview required America to be weak, mongrelized, incapable of real war. So when the opportunity came, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor and gave him the excuse, he took it. Not because it was smart, but because it was necessary to maintain the narrative he'd built his Reich upon. The lesson isn't just about Hitler. It's about what happens when ideology blinds you to reality, when you surround yourself with yes-men who confirm your biases, when you mistake confidence for competence, destiny for strategy, will for wisdom. Hitler looked at the most powerful industrial nation on Earth and saw only weakness because his ideology wouldn't let him see strength. That blindness killed him, killed the Third Reich, and killed millions of people who never asked to be part of his apocalyptic fantasy. If this story made you think about leadership, ideology, and the cost of certainty, share it. Subscribe for more untold moments when history pivoted on decisions that seemed small at the time but changed everything. Thank you for watching.